when you hit a nerve on Twitter and Troy McGinnis calls you out and says you need to do a video, what do? It's Sunday afternoon here in Richmond, Virginia in the U.S. It's nearing 100 degrees Fahrenheit. For those that are on the other side of the pond and are of the Celsius, that's hot. That's real hot. I don't know how hot in Celsius, but it's hot. Okay. So, did a tweet, I guess, last night, and it hit a nerve, at least for my Twitter stream. So, here we go. What I've been trying to do, a couple things. Trying to sharpen Python skills. Also have been trying to prove to myself Little's Law. Or maybe not Little's Law. So, here we go. So, Little's Law says that your throughput is equal to your whip divided by your lead time or your cycle time. Okay. Now, I'll put a link in the comments here after I'm done for those that are watching this afterwards. That aren't following along Little's Law. But again, Little's Law says that the number of items that you can do in a given time period is equal to the number of items you're trying to do all at once divided by how long it normally takes you to do an item. Now, here's another thing about Little's Law. Little's Law is based on that the new items coming into the system are the same thing. So Little's Law works really, really well for traffic scenarios. Works really well for Disney World, manufacturing. That's where it was generated, things like that. Okay. But we also use it, us combine coaches, we use it to coach teams that they should be reducing their whip limits so they can get smoother flow. Okay. So let's see what happens when we apply Little's Law to a seemingly random system. Okay. So what it did is basically simulated like Get Combine, Feature Bond, those types of games where you use a penny or a deck of cards or something to simulate whether an item can make forward progress in a given day or whether it's blocked, right? So what the simulation did, again, I'll put the code in the show notes so you can see it too, but essentially what it did, 100-day simulation, FIFO rules, meaning first in, first out, so super, super simple, 50-50 shot, flip a penny, black or red, deck of cards, 50-50 shot of either making forward progress, in other words, an item gets done, or not. If you can't make progress on an item, then it starts a new item if there's room in the whip limits, okay? So let's look and see what happened. So if we have... Actually, let's look at it this way. So here is what happens if the whip limit is set to 25. Okay? So the left two charts here are the throughput on a given week. So remember I said 100 days, right? So notice how the whip, it varies, not so much, but it does definitely vary a little bit from here to there, right? It varies all the way from 1 to 7. So some weeks I have a good week and some weeks I don't have a good week. That's a pretty huge variation in my opinion. Now here is something interesting. By the end of 100 days, I do get about 50 items. So that's pretty good. So I'm averaging an item every 2 days. That's pretty good. Watch what happens to the cycle time though as the system starts to build that whip. It goes up, right? And so by the time we've got 25 items or so in whip, right, we're now completing every items every 50 days or so. So I'm getting stuff in the system. So this is where Little's Law comes to play, even in a seemingly random system. Okay. And then what happens, just by sheer random, the system starts to correct itself, right? Now, but even as the system starts to stabilize, right, and again, this is simulation, right, I'm still getting stuff every 15 days or so. I don't know. Let's see if that's good or bad. But this is the one that really makes me think, right? At the end of 100 days, I've got 8 items that I'm still working on. Simulation World. One of which is over 15, probably almost 20 days old, right? Which makes sense since there's 20, 25 days in cycle time, right? So this is why, and again, another video for another day. This is why I think throughput, cycle time, and aging are the 3 most important charts you should have at all times. So let's look. I did 6 random runs. Let's look and see what happens, right? Let's make that a little bit bigger for you there. There we go. So next one, you only had 5 items left over. Cycle time didn't get all the way up into that 25% range. Right, and throughput. So what this says that the cards came out in better favor, right? The system created natural flow. It didn't need the whip limit to create the flow. The cards just came out in the favor, right? Natural black and red cards. But in that first one, there was a lot of it. Obviously, there was a lot of black cards, and so there was no feedback in the system to correct for that. Like, what else do we have here? Sorry about that. All right, let's back to it. All right, now look at this, right? This one's even higher, right? We're getting into cycle times of 30s. Still same throughput, but high. So same throughput, higher cycle time. Didn't leave quite as many on the table. Here's an interesting one. There we go. So a little bit more stable throughput, lots more stable. Cycle time is much more bunched down in the 12.5 range. All right, and only 2 left. But look at what happened. We didn't get near as much throughput. So the throughput, we almost lost. So this was almost as if because of the cards. So got this time, we got a lot more red cards is probably what happened. No, not probably. Although that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about probability, right? And so the first 3 probability was, the first one probably was a high probability of black, somewhere in 50-50. And the next 2, this one, you had a lot of red cards, right? So the system was able, or a lot of heads, however you want to call it, whatever signals you can do. So the system maintained a lower whip, but you got lower throughput. But you got lower cycle time. Right? So it's interesting. All right, so if you were so this is where this is interesting. That if you're measuring number of items over in a block of time, say a sprint or a quarter, it may look like because you reduced the whip, you lowered your speed. That's not actually true. The speed of a single item is now much faster, but at a cost of maybe not quite as many items. But also look at what happened. There's not a bunch of items that are left on the table, right? So you can pivot faster. You can pivot faster because you're getting stuff done faster. You can pivot faster because you don't have to wait as long in line, right? So let's go look and see what happens. I'll skip straight to the punchline here because I want to show you something really, really cool in a minute. So let's skip and see what happens when that was 25, I think is what that was. Now let's see what happens when we juice that all the way down to 3. And there's another one here, and if you're interested, I put them on Twitter, so go look at them on Twitter. I'm not going to show them in the video right now because, or I'll show them in a much longer video later on. So look at these. So reduce it down to 3. Now look at this, okay? So in that same 100-day period, I got about 40 things done. But look at my throughput week over week. It's somewhere between 2 and 5. Remember, the first one was 1 and 7. Now I'm 2 and 5. I'm plus or minus 2 instead of plus or minus 3. My cycle, look at my cycle time though. My cycle time has gone down from 30 days to a maximum of 7. That's over 60, over 2/3 times faster. And I only left one item. Look at this. Now, because I want to show you something really, really cool. 2 out of the 6 runs I did left nothing on the table. No items on the table. And that one was actually a little bit fast. Had a little bit more. Right? A little bit slower, maybe, but not really. We'll have 1 or 2 more items. So those 1 or 2 more items. So you can already see just from run to run up, and I'm going to do some histograms and I'm going to show you, but you can already start to see how predictable this system is, right? I'm plus or in a given 100-day period, I'm only plus or minus 2 to 3 items. Wait a minute. My whip limits. I'm plus or minus my whip limits on any given period, right? So 100 days, I'm either 40, 39, 41, but I know exactly what I'm going to get. Again, way another video for a whole nother day. If you're using like Monte Carlo forecasting or even throughput forecasting, God forbid story points, right? If your whip is lower, you can trust those forecasts more. That's why this is important. Now, I want to show you something really stinking cool. You ready for this? Okay. So I just did this on Twitter like an hour ago, and this is the one that Troy McGinnis was like, you got to show this, okay? Troy, I hope you're listening or you watch this later because this is for you, buddy. So what I did, I took that same simulation and I ran it 5,000 times. My poor laptop, you hear it over here already, is hot from doing that earlier still. And as like I said, Richmond, Virginia, it's hot right now. It's like 95 degrees, 60% humidity. I turned my fan off so y'all could hear me. I'm sweating. I'm turning that thing back on as soon as I get done with y'all. So check this out. I ran it 5,000 times for 5 different whip limits. Same system I just showed you. 50% probability of completing an item or not completing an item. Okay. So when the whip limit and what's on the histogram here, sorry, I need to explain that. I might try to explain this on what I'm showing you is the cycle time. So each run of 100 days, how long did it take 85% of those items to complete? So right here, this is what we saw earlier, right? So this is whip of 3. So this is what we were looking at, right? 6 days or less. 85% of the items completed in 6 days or less, right? Y'all catching up? Y'all aren't seeing this. Hold on. Let me make sure y'all are seeing this histogram here. Hold, please. I don't know how much y'all missed, but y'all just give me a second. All right. Now y'all messed my head. Give me 1 second. This is what happens when you go live. You just go with it. All right, now y'all got it. We might re-record this. I don't know. I kind of like the rawness of it. So here's the histogram. And sorry if y'all didn't see the charts from earlier. I'll make sure you got them. Listening to me is important. Not that I'm saying that y'all need to listen to me, but you do. But you get what I'm saying. This is why I like going live, because I don't even know if anybody's listening, but I'm cutting up with myself, right? So here's the histogram. So 5,000 times each whip limit. See what's going to happen. right? So now what you see here, this is back when the other item. So 6 days or less, whip a 3. About 9 days or less is the peak, but it spreads out, right? Because the system is random. Little's Law is like, it's got a little histogram to it, right? It's got a little bell curve to it. The peak for 7, now we're all the way up here in 14, if I'm reading this right. Now, this is where it gets stinking cool, okay? Little's Law starts to fall apart because you can see here these 3, 5, and 7, they're bell curves, right? It's pretty normal distribution, plus or minus 2 or 3 days on what our cycle time is going to be. But look what happened to the peak here at 10. So we really don't get a peak. Well, the peak for 10 and 25 are actually dead on the same. They actually moved over a little bit. So most of them were at 10 days. But look at this tail here, right? So 10 rolls off somewhere around 30 days. 25 rolls off way over here in 45 days. And this is just 85%. There's stuff that's older than that. It took longer than that. So this is why you've got to put WIP limits on your system at the team level, at the team of teams, program, art, whatever you want to call it, at the team of team level, the feature level, the epic level, right? That team of teams needs to be working on, based on this right here. And we're going to do more. But right now, my hypothesis says that if a system, a team of teams, I don't care how many teams are working on it, right? The data right now says that a team of teams needs to be working on less than 10 items at any given time. Otherwise, the system is completely unpredictable. You do not know when you're going to get that items done. Same thing at that higher level. So, Klaus Leopold, right? Flight level 3. So, flight level 1, 10 or less. Flight level 2, 10 or less. Here's what I'm saying for flight level 3. I'm saying as few as possible. Because when we're talking about quarters to years, because that's what y'all do up there at that flight level 3, I know it. And we're talking about a plus or minus of, I don't know, what are we looking at here? 2 to 3 times? So then we're going from quarters to tens of quarters, and from years to nevers, right? 3, 5, 7, like max initiatives across your company. I said that, and I said that right. Across your company. All right? So we're coming up on 20 minutes going live here. WIP limits. We'll do more of these. There's going to be a ton of these coming out over the next several weeks. Because right now I got a WIP of 1. This is what I'm working on. All right. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, subscribe. Hit me on Twitter at Agile Tanner on Twitter. WhatWouldDeanAsk.com is the YouTube. Made it easy for you to remember. Tor McGinnis, this is for you.